Pam, you're quite welcome to sit up at the table. You don't have to sit way back there.
No.
It's quite comfy back there.
These are on.
No, it's not. I've got a coat on.
No, I know I've got a couple of extra layers, but I'm still freezing. Have you got a blanket?
All right, guys, you know where the exits are, they're back. We toilets are out back, and we'll get started. Apologies from Rebecca, and that's all. Do we have conflict? Oh, sorry, can we move someone else and Gareth Protector and Lord Labour? Yep, again, no, Karen. Conflicts of interest? We have no conflicts. Public participation, we don't have any. Actions, we don't have any. Extraordinary business? No. Oh, yes. You're signing all. Oh, I think I'm probably. Yeah. Yes, it's only to receive, as an extra item, of course, receive the minutes of the Wellington Regional Waste Management and Minimisation Plan. Now, this will go to council.
The actual adoption.
The adoption of the plan will go to council, the bylaw will go to council. All we're asked to is receive the information. Would someone like to move to that? Alice, I'll second that. All in favour? Aye. Right. Secondly, we asked to receive the minutes of the Wellington Wastewater Management and Minimisation Plan. Someone like to move? No. Thank you. Now, Pam, is there anything you want to add to this?
I don't think so. I think it's pretty self-explanatory from the actual document that we've got, the actual plan.
Yep.
It's just that, like Capity have changed some of what's going to go forward later on. I think that's really what they're doing, that they're adding in extra things to work on the plan going forward, because they're going to need to review the plan as it goes through in about 3 years, and they've identified some of the things that they want to review, and especially the reduction in the amount of household waste that's generated, and so by per person, which will have an effect on emissions and the dollar value saving for each household. So I think, unless Ewan wants to add anything else to it, I think those are basically the changes. The changes are all in red that they want to add in. So, yeah.
Well, actually, to be perfectly honest, I haven't read it completely because I woke up at one stage with it on my face.
Can I just ask, so one of the things that I sort of saw on here is that each council provide a chart showing how they're achieving primary, secondary and tertiary targets. Do we already have that in place in the South Wairarapa, or is that something that actually is going to be additional to the current work that the council officers are going to need, another report that we're going to need to bring to the council table?
I think probably from memory we'll probably need to get some more reporting, and I think that reporting will come from the licensing of the waste, the waste collectors and the contractors, and once we're able to extract that information, then Robin and the team will be able to, and through David, I think they'll probably do it Wairarapa wide. We'll be able to drill down as what we're collecting and the different types of waste and things like that. But licensing of the contractors is the big thing, so that we can say that we actually require them to provide that data.
Part of it. Yeah, because I just noticed that it says including diversion from landfill. So I think information like that probably would be quite awesome to actually have for each of our councils to see how we're doing with waste minimisation. Like at the moment, we don't really have a way of showing whether or not how we're doing, how we're progressing with it.
I think that the waste that comes into the transfer stations and things like that, we don't have a record of how we're doing in recycling that so that it doesn't go onto a landfill. And so I think those are the things that, like in Silverstream or over in Porua, and that they recycle and they've got a way of tracking what they do in the shops. So I think that C&D waste and things like that are going to be crucial, that we either save that going into the landfill or that we are able to recycle it or reuse it again once it's
You see at the bottom of page 8, bullet point 9, I've actually added in there the reporting around for carbon emission from waste and all the rest of it. So I think they've actually starting to move in the right direction, and
Just don't know.
we'll, I mean, at the end of the day, any improvement's an improvement, and you know,
sometimes it feels a bit slow.
I think, like I say, that's more just because we don't have anything in place to actually show us. We've got no tracking, after all this time. And I think it would actually be really good to start getting that so we can see, and it helps us to know which areas we need to discuss with which areas of the community. So.
Yeah. And I think at the moment, all we're tracking is how much waste is going to Bonnie Glen and
That's
things
right.
like that. But Bonnie Glen's going to be filled soon, so there's.
So we have separate totals for South Wairarapa in those quantities, not amalgamated with the.
I don't know, you'd need to answer that. Sorry, I can't. When the waste goes to up to Bonnie Glen, we've got our figures for what goes to Bonnie Glen. It isn't cut from Masterton and Cardiff.
Right, so it's not amalgamated with the master.
No, we've had tonnage rates, we should be able to capture that data.
It was reported previously.
oh yes,
The
yes,
tonnage
yes, it
per
was.
month.
It was
Yeah.
reported.
Yeah. So it'd be quite nice to see that back.
But I think that what we're going to capture in the future is the contractor picks up all the recycling,
Yes.
and he also picks up the yellow plastic bags. If he's taking that recycling to Masterton to process that, we're not getting an idea of what
The difference.
stuff is in that recycling, and
Food waste.
and so what the tonnage and things like that are.
There'd be a separate report because we just can't dump stuff on Masterton without them tracking it.
So maybe we need
Actually, it would be
to find that out
have a
now.
look at that contract with the, I think it was a clause that I can't remember.
Yeah, but we've got to be really careful here because next year and then the following year, we're going to see a creeping of levies from the Ministry of the Environment on tonnage.
Yeah.
So we need to be reacting now because it is a massive risk to this council and their budget.
Yes.
It's going from $10 a tonne to 55.
Ow.
Yeah, it's huge.
So we
huge piece.
need to react now. Well, in this triennium,
Mhm.
it's going to get nasty.
So there's the development of waste minimisation plan, that's part of it's in progress now, I think, by the RCP as well.
Yes, because we've got to go out with public consultation for it.
Yeah, But what the tracking of the tonnage
Yeah.
will give us an indication of what our future costs will be if we don't react.
We need that information for our carbon emissions too.
It's actually a really good thing in a way that, to engage our communities about waste minimisation as well, if they actually are aware of the difference. This is going up to this. You can start practicing your waste minimisation, or you may find that $55 is going to have to come from your rates, a rates increase, and things like that, so it's really getting them to start thinking about it, and so it could actually be quite positive.
Oh,
Yeah.
It also may make alternatives financially more viable.
Yes.
Which we're not looking at.
Can you and I get together and look at what figures we can actually extract from what we've got now without costing either the council or the contractor more money to provide it, so.
Yeah, and there'll be standard contract reports that will get back to monthly basis anyway, so we can get pricing for.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, fantastic.
Well, you're right, that's a good point. We do need a starting point.
Don't mind if you just spit that down to me and I can then collate and graph and monitor. If it's a.
We should have.
Yeah.
Thank you, Pam. Is there any questions for Pam on this? I think we're starting to move in the right direction, but I will have a good read of it, Pam.
Yeah, it's certainly interesting times.
Hopefully, when I'm not about to go through.
Yeah, I think the bit that's coming to council, we need to read to make sure that we're all okay with that.
Yeah. When is it coming to council?
About
14th
years
of
ago,
October, so
earlier time.
3 weeks away, so. Yep, fine, thank you very much, Pam.
Oh, thank you for adding it in.
Yeah,
Right.
not a problem. I think the general we're aware of things like this, the easier it is for us later on. Right, so we're now moving on to minutes for confirmation. Would someone like to move that we receive the minutes for the Assets and Services Committee dated the 12th of August 2020? All in favour? Yes, carried. Proposed resolution that the minutes of the Assets and Services Committee held on what that's done.
Received.
Were received. Now, is there any?
We need to do the public excluded ones as well.
Okay. Sorry, just bear with me. Yeah, I'll sort it. Right. Would someone like to move that the Assets and Services Committee public excluded minutes of 12th of August 2020? Will we receive that? Ross and Alex. You all in favour? Aye. So, is there any discussion around that? We've read them that many times. We've been all over this, so very good. We're moving on.
Do we need to pass them as a true and accurate record?
Yes, we do.
You really should do this, so when
As a,
so when I receiving them, we're actually, that will go and create record, so.
other drug correct record. Elsa.
I move that the minutes of the Assets and Services Committee held on 12th of August for a true and accurate record.
Right, that's good.
All those in favour?
All in favour of that? Alistair?
Yeah, no, yeah.
And I
You
also,
know, I'm a stickler for bureaucratic process.
I also move that the public excluded minutes of the Assets and Services Committee meeting held on 12th of August 2023 are a true and accurate record.
Yes.
Good man.
I
I would hate this because we haven't passed it.
I'll hold you up, Elsa. Not for long, mate. Righto, we're moving on to A7, which is the minutes of the subcommittee. Someone like to move, we receive it. Subcommittee for the water rates. All in favour of that? Aye. Now, someone like to move that it is true or correct? We don't do that.
Because we weren't involved in there.
No, Gary, just on that, no, we'll do that in B12, B1. Just wanted you to clarify a couple of things. You're on that committee.
No, not yet.
Oh,
I was there for about 3 hours.
You might be on there soon.
A conflict of interest.
Rebecca is.
I know that there were objections presented by Mr. Headley.
Sorry?
I know that there were objections presented by Mr. Headley.
Yeah, that's what we want to discuss. discuss.
Right, we're moving on to B section, which is the.
So were you there during those objections?
Oh, I was at the meeting, yes.
Yeah, so do you want to explain
That's what's going on.
that?
Yeah,
Okay.
Well, to do that and be, oh, no.
no, this is a report for this report.
Yeah,
Let me just see here. Mr. Headley is on the committee, but is presenting a one view as opposed to a discussion as to the future of water races.
Yep.
And any suggestions or discussion that tends to conflict with his predetermined view as to the future of the water races is constantly objected to. It's an issue that needs to be discussed later on. That's really it.
so that,
He is sitting on there as a user. Is that why he's a
Serious user, he's a serious user.
Yeah, but that's one of the concerns, is that it shows that he voted against every motion.
Yeah.
But
That's an issue to come up a bit later on about whether or not this is presenting a proactive and going forward discussion on the future, or whether having some roadblock is conductive to an effective committee. So
How did he, is he elected onto the committee?
he is a user.
yeah, he's
But
a
is
user.
there an election of users?
He's a
He's a user.
So we'll see this discussion a bit later on recommendations.
so will that be handled within the water race subcommittee or?
There's been a couple of emails going backwards and forwards regarding the makeup of the committee, and moving forward that hopefully we can chat about in the recommendations. But also we want whether or not we want to, given that all the members, apart from myself and Rebecca, have a potential conflict of interest, i.e. they have water races on their property anyway, it might be useful to bring Garrett on there. The initial objections were unfounded.
We haven't got that on a regular.
That's not a recommendation, but we're discussing that.
We've all got a conflict.
Yeah, well, I guess ultimately we'll. Okay. Right, we're moving on to B1. Someone moved that we receive the recommendations from the water race subcommittee report. Ross, Garrett's been seconded. All in favour? And someone moved that we consider the following recommendations from the water race subcommittee. The recommendation is to endorse the Fire and Emergency New Zealand application for Moroa water race to be realigned. Now, just before we move, I just sort of like to get a little bit of our heads around that.
I can't actually open it, so it's the water race subcommittee agenda. So I'm really sorry. I'm just trying to see what it was that the Fens actually put through about to being realigned, and I can't open it.
But
So you want
it's a bit more simple.
That's not a
than
text.
that. It's already happened.
Right.
So it's a retrospective that happened years ago, but it wasn't a brief.
So it's basically a administrative catch-up around the diversion.
So it's all, okay. Can you start again? So that happened years ago.
Yeah.
And it was diverted for Fens, or at the time the NZ5 service. Yeah. I'm assuming. To where? Where? Like, how was it diverted?
It was just a movement from one position to another position to align it better.
It's a good
It's a feeding stream.
In Greytown, right? Okay. So that's amazing. I literally, like I say, I can't open it. So I'm quite like, what is happening? What's?
So, okay, I'm missing why we're even talking about this.
Well,
Well, this realignment was approved by council on the 8th of August 2018.
Yeah, it's just,
Can I just
It's a
alter the
courtesy going back through the water race committee and informing them. That's why.
You're restricted for the rules, so
It does say it's been approved by council.
That's
In
an error.
2018?
It was approved by council on the 8th of August 2019 and not 18.
Right.
Okay,
Well, it's still
so
approved. So why is it here?
Well, it was,
That was my lovely noise.
It's sent to the Water Race Committee as courtesy.
There's two approvals there. One's for the fence one, which actually hasn't gone ahead, although they've got building consent, I understand.
Yep.
And the other one is a retrospective one, so that was for the
Yep.
water race subcommittee tonight. So there's two approvals there. Because in the office.
Oh, right.
So because there's no approval, it's already been approved, you're not recommending anything to council.
Right.
So you're just the fence one, which technically hasn't actually happened yet.
okay.
I see, okay.
I understand. So that's the typo, that should be
19 is the time.
8th of August 2019, is that correct?
yeah, I'm pretty sure when I read the minutes and things, it's got
Oh, okay.
2019, not 18.
Which would make more
But
sense.
I'm open to just show Pip this.
What, we have a history.
This
where
is coming down.
Council was approving alignments and changes to the water race without asking the water race subcommittee, which they're allowed to do, but isn't very politic in case there is an
Right.
issue with it. So what we're trying to do now is to say, consider it and let the assets and services or council know if there's a problem. It is politic, but it's also logical.
Bearing in mind that prior to about 2018, Gary, there was no real subcommittee for water races.
There's a huge gap.
Huge gap, and we're catching up on a lot of that.
So that makes sense. Let's note it, make sure that everyone's in agreement before actually going ahead with a change to the water race.
So what's his name? Headley,
Jim.
Jim complaining about if it's already been done. Forget English.
Yeah.
But can I ask a question about the team though? How is Bill Sloan? How is Bill?
He's good. Yeah.
I saw him the other day. He looked terrible.
We're in public.
I'm just hoping he's on the right rate of recovery.
Right, did I get someone to move that?
Yeah, I'll move that.
Alan? Alison? We're all in favour of that?
Right, yeah,
Come back. You're supporting?
Alice is gonna,
I will be the bureaucratic guru of this council.
Oh. Guru, yes.
Odd word. But with it.
Right. We are now moving to section C, information and verbal
Don't you
reports
start.
from Chief Executive and staff.
just see, the very first heading there is, Rura Okapatuna. So maybe we'll get the spelling right.
Right, would someone like to move that we receive the partnership and operations report? And I will back it up. We're all in favour of that? Aye. Yes, carried, right. Here we go. Ewan, centre stage, mate.
Thank you. So hopefully you've had a chance to read through it. I'll just quickly canter through a couple of bits. Obviously, there is a slight format change. And I guess the operations commentary in the body of the document with the dashboard approach around some of those projects, and we can sort of run through those in a moment. I'll probably look to use that format until hopefully we can look at some of the KPIs and structures around those as part of the LTP process. But hopefully members can use the dashboard to highlight particular areas of concern, and we can highlight risk areas to use them. So I guess we'll pick those up in a moment. Yeah, unless you want to members highlight any questions or concerns in the report.
There was a really good question asked at the Māori Standing Committee meeting the other day. Can you explain why it's called the Wairarapa Library Services when it doesn't include Masterton?
I can.
Yeah.
Well, but there's no conjunctive word for Carterton and South Wairarapa separate.
Southern? Wairarapa?
But, you know,
Because we're all
Carterton,
from Marsden.
Carterton goes all the way to the Wainara Bridge. So,
Yeah, that's what I mean.
yeah, it is the Wairarapa Library Service, and the intention might be that it became a full Wairarapa Library Service.
It was done on the basis that Marsden were going to join in originally, and then they decided not to, and Carterton and South Wairarapa went together. But it is hopeful that if we do a lot of work, that we may be able to have an integrated system through the whole of Wairarapa.
So I see.
It will be really good, with
Really
fingers
nice.
crossed. Yeah.
Yeah, to have all of it, yeah,
Which
together.
will mean we'll be able to borrow books from anywhere, which is really good.
So 2.0, the Featherston sewer that we've had an issue. Yeah, Lisa, exactly. More and more important or expensive.
Yeah, so this is initially a blockage of that sewer main. It does run down Severn Street near Daniel Street. It also runs under the train tracks, as the report suggests. So there are multiple blockages there that have been cleared. There's a temporary fix of liner being put within the pipe. But as part of the investigations, there has been quite a large slip under the pipe under the train tracks. So the permanent solution to that is becoming increasingly expensive. The blockages haven't caused any loss of service to the public or environmental impacts, but the cost of fixing that pipe is becoming increasingly expensive because of where it is, traffic management, rail corridor, all that sort of stuff. So that we are getting an indication from Wellington Water as to what that is, but it will start to have a significant impact on our CapEx budgets for the year. Once we know that, we'll share.
Is there any indication that the damage has been caused because of trains?
That'll be part of the long-term permanent fix investigation.
I have raised there is does Kiwi Rail have a liability for it?
We would need to pick that up with the MRO.
I did mention that.
They were off.
Two things I thought of. We've had a significant amount of roading traffic in the lorries with the wood going across that, which hasn't been in the past, and therefore I think that maybe NZTA need to be part of that discussion to take some ownership, because if the road was not up to standard for that heavy vehicles and that's caused the collapse of the pipe, well then maybe we need to involve them and put in some money from them, even though that is a state highway and they, there's the cost there. And the other question I have, which is significant for me, is that how many laterals have you actually found that you didn't know about?
In this job?
Yes.
I believe there were 2 that weren't known about, or certainly weren't mapped.
Yeah, so are they going to businesses or?
I don't know at the moment. I'll be to come back to them.
It's a significant amount of money we're not getting any revenue for, if that's the case.
I guess that's always a concern when you dig up any roading around any town. It's the unknown. And over the years, we've found every time we've gone to fix a burst water pipe or anything, there's always other issues that have been hanging around and we've never been aware of.
Oh, it's just probably not the case that you've got there, Pam, that we're losing revenue. It's probably more so that the application was put in, it probably wasn't, the paperwork probably wasn't done at the council.
You never know, there might not have been paperwork as well.
Pretty hard to dig up a road and join a lateral without anyone noticing.
Yeah.
Well,
depends
it's pulled down, so it's not there.
So it may be that the lateral goes to a dead end.
I don't think those around those ones.
So I've got a whole sheet.
Some of the
questions.
Okay.
If you want me to go.
I guess here is the thing that we've always got to be aware of, that these things happen. We can't, and we're trying our very best to minimise them, but when they happen, we have to front up and find the money from somewhere to fix it.
Because we can't rate for
and you can't rate
Contingent.
Just in case. Yeah, just in case.
So it's always an issue. Anyway, Rimataka, you're talking about on 3.3 traffic counts. Could we ensure that NZTA seems to ignore reporting traffic counts on the Rimataka Hill, which I think is crucial for us. They seem to go look at Wainawa Bridge and various other points along the state highway. I've asked them numerous times to be reporting that, because that is not only an economic indicator but also a Featherston focused indicator of traffic. On 3.1, I strongly oppose NZTA changing to the Palliser Road subsidy. So we do need to strongly push back on that. I'm sure Harry is anyway, but if I could just...
What's the effect going to be if that subsidy comes down? I'm sure we can't afford to keep that road open.
The issue that comes, and I spoke to you briefly about this, is going to be part of the negotiation. Some time ago, NZTA were flagged that we're going to lose it at some stage, and their thoughts were then that they could possibly take over the problem is 90% of the road, 95% of the road's fine, but there's
8 kilometres.
Yeah, I thought it was 6, but anyway, regardless, but there was
Just the cliffs, isn't it?
thought that they made the subsidy much higher for those areas. Hence why Tim and Ewan are trying to get a lot of this work done before the subsidy runs out.
Well, they've been designated roads of special significance, which gets 100%.
Just keep their sale.
The problem is that they're discontinuing roads of special significance.
So opposed to the board still to make a decision.
But we need to keep pushing back, because that will impact us by potentially millions if the eco reefs don't work and we have continued erosion along.
It's also highly unpredictable.
Yeah.
Really difficult to budget for. To your previous point around pipes breaking, this would be horrendous to try and predict any.
No, I thought that there was a bridge happening.
Yes, there was 2 bridges.
Yeah, that's right.
That was
a year ago.
Washpool and Taranaki Bridge.
Uh-huh.
I think it was all up, it was around 4 million, but that's been put on the back burner because they said it's not necessary. Now you have to speak with that.
Not on that particular one.
If there's a way that we could follow that up, because if they're saying that that's not necessary, however, it's, plus they're looking to pull this away, well, in effect, that's quite a few million that SWDC is going to need to try and find.
So I mean, we're leaving it, it's only a proposed, but I'm just registering that how important we find that road, and it's not
exactly
easy. Just write us a letter and saying it's not happening.
That's right. And
so we do
it was so important that there was going to be 2 bridges put in place. So I'm just
that was something I was going to discuss with Tim the other day, how that's going to affect that.
So just before we move off, it's also not just particular to this road or this area. It is a nationwide thing that NZTA are looking at. It's not just particular for us.
If I could run through some other things as well. Constantine Park, what is the status of the pony club there? Have there been any decisions made?
Sorry, what was that about?
The status of the pony club lease?
I think Bryce is still working on that. I think it's an EU.
TBC, that's fine. A lot of these you probably can't answer, but at Papawai, with the review of the releases, we do have a rental house there that was the original scribe for the Māori Parliament.
Yeah.
Could we suggest that we pull that out and look at that, and whether or not this should be offered back to the marae once the lease is ended, because it's a bit of an orphaned piece of land with the land we purchased for wastewater treatment. In Featherston, there are 2 issues, one around trees around the Harcourts building blocking directional views, and if we could just look at that and make sure that whether or not they need to be removed, especially with the new railway pedestrian crossings that have been put in. Also, there was a question raised regarding the Featherston Park. There was a gateway and a footpath from the medical centre, which is now a kids' bookshop, and with the new fencing, that gate is no longer there. And a request from the public was made whether that could be reinstated. given that the old medical centre is now a children's bookshop. That's probably me.
Look, Rebecca sent me through a couple of questions that she was going to ask you, and Ewan's going to reply, but I just want to share them with her, and it relates to the ETA for full report regarding the wastewater overflows. Excuse me. And in the future, is there any opportunity for short interim reports, bullet point style?
Yeah, so there's two things there. The report around the Lake Ferry wastewater incident, I believe, has gone through their peer review process, and we should have that in the next few days. In terms of interim reports, speaking frankly, it has bitten council in the bum before, not this council, but other councils, I should say, where they've provided interim reports and they've not necessarily been fully factually checked, and that's caused issues around with the consenting authority in terms of any prosecution later, and also if there are HR issues. So if there is a personal any negligence on an individual and it's been suggested but not proven, has caused issues in the past, and do need to be slightly careful around the level of detail we provide.
Yeah.
Those interim reports, I think we probably need to provide more detail, but we do need to be slightly careful on those issues. So it's certainly something that I think has been acknowledged on those two instances, Lake Ferry one and the recent possible Martinborough overflow. Probably need to provide a bit more detail on an ongoing basis on those.
Thank you, Ewan. Also, a question from Ewan's report regarding the roading section. What things have learned from a walkover from Fort Mahogan Ceiling Manager? Tim, these are the issues that have been flagged and we haven't had.
Yeah, so I think that Rebecca's suggestion that the general field of roads are in poor condition. Unfortunately, that's not unusual this time of year, just purely because we can't really do resealing or major works through the winter period, because of course the seal just doesn't really take. So that walkover with the sealing manager is to identify some key issues that we'll pick up and put into the plan for the resealing programme for this year. Unfortunately, it's just a time of year thing as much as
also, Ewan and I went to the Lake Ferry ratepayers meeting, and Ewan got bombarded with a few questions and a bit of a wish list. That wish list, you haven't had it yet, have you?
I actually received it yesterday.
Oh, you received it yesterday.
So it took a while to go through the email. No, we've got a few issues that we need to pick up, including around some of the fencing for the trees at the back, the replanting plan, some questions around the magnet carpet trees at the playground, which we'll pick up and make it go with.
All the trees are down now, I think.
Lake Ferry,
Yeah, there's some at the northern end that I need to speak to Russell about. They were concerned why they weren't taken down, but my understanding is they were on private land, they weren't our trees, we couldn't touch it, but I'll find that out from them. Also, I think we're probably going to have to talk to Doc or the Regional Council regarding the lake frontage.
Yeah, there's ongoing erosion
issues there. And
do we still have unbuilt sections there? Someone not us, but they're asking.
Oh, yes, Terry Cameron's got some.
Yeah, I mean, that's a very dangerous piece of land and with the coastal erosion.
Yes,
and climate
yes.
change.
Yes, that was one that I was asking.
Yeah. Sea level rise just doesn't bring the water up. It's the storm surges that can come up there that are an issue. But all in all, they were very happy. They were happy with council and how they handled getting the trees down. There was one question from one woman. What are you going to do with the money you made from the trees? He said, well, do you want to pay the shortfall? Because it cost council to get them out. We were committed to take them out, but at that stage the place went south and we had to do it. So, but it was interesting. I was talking to Jim Brassel, and when he was on council, because I can remember at the time, the ratepayers in Lake Ferry got the council to plant those trees there because they wanted to stop erosion.
Yeah.
Now we've got a lot of people, they want them away.
but they're still going to do something about the
Yeah.
erosion because it's got to be
But-
something.
I actually think it sounds
that's
pretty positive that, you know, they're being very proactive, and the fact that they are, that from the sounds of things, that they're willing to work with council, with the replanting and things like that. So I just like the whole idea. That's what I love about rural communities, I guess.
The engagement's been great.
Yeah,
And
yeah. And the
that's,
fact that you guys both went out there and they were able to actually put a face,
Yeah.
not just at council level, but actually, you know, that to see that someone that's sitting at the council offices is engaged as well. I think that's really awesome. Thanks, Ewan.
that's the key to it. If we're seen to support their plans and wishes, they
Yeah.
will help us to achieve it.
We won't always agree.
Oh, no.
No, that's right.
We are seeing that with Ngawi,
Yeah,
in
that's
the area, those residents associations, that I'm seeing a collaborative move. It's really nice.
We've
And they don't.
always had a good relationship with Ngawi, and I guess that's probably because the last
That's what you think.
Diane felt private land being part of the community, and we've got some things going. There were a lot of things that we still need to do, but it's all about talking and being in partnership, and I think, you know, we need to extend that beyond these little coastal areas.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but Ross, you had a question.
Yeah, even on the program report, there's a note for the Featherston wastewater workshop. Now, I understand that in correspondence, the content was referred to as consideration of options. What options?
No, so that it wasn't, we're looking at specific options around the solution. It was more around what sort of things do we need to consider when we start to develop our models of options.
Okay, because there is a lot of nervous tension around this, both in governance and in the community.
Yeah.
And we don't want to drop the ball on this. We need to be quite transparent that all viable options are being actively considered and weighed against each other. And as committee members, councillors, we would love to be involved in this without interfering, of course, in operational matters.
Absolutely, and I think there was a bit of a mix up around some of the scope and the advice for that meeting, and that's been sort of set right, hopefully. And there is the meeting, I think it's on the 3rd of September. October, sorry, I was looking at the date on my laptop, where the project team will be doing a community session, so that we hopefully can start to pick up some of that nervousness and get some of that feedback back from the community. That's
Yeah, Ross, if I could mention, I think the Greater Wellington Regional Council started that process without, is that correct?
we have a list of people that they would invite to those.
So it wasn't us as South Wairarapa initiated meeting, and then we pulled back on it pretty quickly.
But I mean, this came as a bit of a surprise to all of us.
Yeah.
And we need to be in the picture.
What
What's going on?
what I'm saying is
Are we
it came
gonna
as a
be
surprise to you.
Is that what?
It came as a surprise to you and as
Only
well.
get one person at a time.
It came as a surprise to you and as well. Yeah.
Just on that, when we, you know, is it possible, I know there's quite a few of the community board and councillors that are going to go to this drop-in session in Featherston. Is it possible for, prior to that drop-in session, we can be brought up to speed with where we are and what we're looking at, because we want to be telling the same story.
Sure.
Yeah.
You know, because not everyone's going to be talking to everyone, if you know what I mean. So if we can be on the, is that possible?
Yeah, we can certainly provide a bit more background to people that are going to be attending. I guess I've just reinforced that it is still early days, and we've just restarted the process, so there's not been any big decisions made at all. It's still very in those early days, but what we'll do is I'll get a project team to put together a brief for elected members that are attending and also community board members that are attending.
Yeah. Oh, that's great.
Can you send it out to everyone? Like my,
Yeah, well,
I can't attend, but I'd like to see that.
Yeah, yes.
What did you want to add to that?
No, so I've got a couple of another couple of items, but there's more on this topic, please.
I was just going to say, can we be briefed on
Yes.
what was happening? And even if there's no briefing, then we actually need to know the format of how the meeting's going to how you're planning to hold that meeting. Are you just going to talk to people and then have a free from all from everybody, or are you going to break them out into groups?
It's a rather informal drop-in session where we can capture some of the comments from the communities, is my understanding. But as part of the brief, what we'll do is we've got an outline of the format that we'll use for that, so that anyone attending can view it.
The comment from Mel was that they'll be sending out that collateral in the next few days.
So I'll just make sure that's...
Because it's too late on today.
Yeah. So we'll just make sure that's set on plenty of time to address some of the issues that
I just have one question as well, if I may, just with regards to the Payne Farm upgrades. I note that we've just got H&S in yellow, which I believe means some concerns. So, which is what's the health and safety aspects that we?
You're on the action report, aren't you?
No, I'm still on the report, partnership report.
You're on the.
I'm on partnerships and operational program report.
Yeah. The graphs
I
at the
think-
bottom.
Yeah. So I'm just wondering if you could just give a quick breakdown on that. Everything else is green, which is fabulous, and the feedback's been amazing. But I just wanted
If you look at the date on this, I think we've only looked at this is August, and so it was highlighting possibly completion concerns, but now we're
so
September.
done.
I think, and I think it's the same for a number of other items on that list.
Okay.
That possibly they've changed colour, but
Yeah, it's a more of a sort of general comment just around nature of the buildings and stuff. Every time I touch something, there's general sort of health and safety concerns. It's more of a general comment rather than any specifics.
Okay, perfect. Cool, thank you.
Yeah, now, I'd like to have the minutes reflect my concerns about road safety in the main street of Featherston. The State Highway 2 goes through town. The 30k zone is, the speed limits are laughable. I'm sorry, the adherence to the speed limits are laughable. Heavy traffic melts through there, fully laden, well in excess of that speed. And I've seen multi-wheeled units lock up as they see it too late, somebody stepping onto a pedestrian crossing outside the supermarket. One of the problems with the streets, you'll notice how calm Greytown Main Street is because it's narrow. And that narrows a driver's perspective. The wider a road is, the faster you can go. Now, we have this central median in Fitzherbert Street too, which is much beloved by truck drivers in need of road food. If there's no road parking, they will park in that centre median. And that blocks visibility of entrances and exits to the supermarket, visibility of people approaching the pedestrian crossing, etc. The Revens Street, State Highway 53, State Highway 2, Wakefield Street intersection is a nightmare. People have long suggested there should be a roundabout there. Now, I know that these are NZTA issues. People also talk about the need for traffic calming, much as Carterton had. So I just want to lay those on the table, you, and I don't really ask for any comment from you at all, but can I register my concerns for this committee to pick up as an action item?
Well, this was also discussed at the road State Highway Road Committee, Tucker Hill Committee it was previously, and NZTA have committed to a full safety review of Greytown and Featherston and speed limits and the entry point to town and exit.
This has been in the wind for quite some time.
It's very evident.
Very evident.
I would hope it's not imminent enough for one life.
We were getting down to the discussion of road bumps and the effect on trucks.
Raise those pedestrian crossings.
So it is being fleshed out now.
Okay.
But I think it's a good idea to raise the...
Can I leave that on the table, Mr. Chair?
It's interesting
Yes.
that you talked about that roundabout Dean when he was council for Featherston. They had a big rock on the rim of Tucker Hill that they took out of the road, and he wanted the council to go and pick that rock up and put it in the middle of the road to create its own roundabout. But anyway.
Yeah, I'll just following up on Ross's point. Can I also add in there, I have sent a note through I'm concerned about the Longwood East Donald Street corner. When that last flooding came through, it was totally impassable. It's building up under that bridge, which floods all the way back through there. And can I just, it's a general question. trucks are now using Longwood Road, diversion from Marston. In the old days, we used to have class 2 roads and class 1 roads. Is that no longer
Gone.
gone?
Long.
So you can't stop them from driving down. Why are they going that way? Because the lifestyle is now properties down here, so they go that way and they park rather than using 53. Thank you.
Right.
One last carving point, well, my apologies, Ewan. In the annual plan, I think, there's a projected Wellington Water activity for flood water, flooding the hotspot water, culverts, corners, things like that. I have a little list. Any idea when this may occur? Because every time it rains, my office becomes inundated, not with water, but with angry wet ratepayers.
Right. If there are no hotspots, please send me. So they have started that review. They've tended to focus on Harrison Street. Is it at the top end there? So I think I know a hotspot for a long time. But if there are other areas that we build into it, then please just send it.
And that applies to all councillors.
Okay, sorry.
That applies to all towns.
Absolutely. But for us, when we have a
I won't mention my one.
who we talk to without treading on toes operationally?
So the formal route is through Harry, because then you can control those requests. So I guess we try and stick to that, but yeah.
So if I was to send Harry CCU a list of...
It is quite a circuitous route, but if we can do that to manage those requests, that would be great.
Alistair, footpaths. I see in the report it just says maintenance work continuing on the footpaths within the 3 towns. Could we please have more information on this? It is the #1 topic of elderly people in Greytown about how they get around town. We voted a huge amount of money for footpath maintenance, and I presume it applies in Martinborough and Featherston as well. That one line is almost insulting.
Well, actually, we do publish the full programme on our website. That hasn't moved on because, again, similar to my previous comment, we can't do that through winter, otherwise it just doesn't take. We will update the programme of works on the website.
Thank you, and bring your report to us as well, if you could. Thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry, and I'd like to raise to the minutes again, as we spoke to you on the flooding issue outside the cafe. What's Cahoots Cafe, the potholes and the camber of the road and so on and so forth. And still no one has actually spoken to the business owner. I think it's coming up for a year now since I've been raising this.
Yeah, but I just wanted to. So, for those of you who don't know, Toast Martinborough's been cancelled. So I'm just wondering with regards to the manganese removal plant, if that's going to, we can, is it ready to go? Shall we just do it? We were waiting until the Monday. Yeah, we were waiting until the Monday or Tuesday, weren't we? Until after the Toast Martinborough. So I just thought.
So that was the driver of the delay. So the manganese reduction plant, the work on it has been completed and it has had a closed loop test, which was successful. The delay is around, of turning it on, is around the control system at the Martinborough Water Treatment Plant and upgrading both the power and the control system there to make sure it talks successfully to the new manganese plant.
Right. So
that delay out to November is driven by that, not necessarily the availability of the manganese reduction plant.
So, and was it manganese removal plant? Now you're saying reduction?
It's always been reduction.
Ah.
We're never going to get rid of all of it.
It's going to be so.
Yeah, gotcha. So I guess that's just a way of being.
How much, that was going to be my question, because originally before you came on board, Ewan, it was called a removal plant and it was going to take all of the manganese out of the water. So what percentage of manganese is still going to be left in the water that is still going to ruin people's jugs that we get and and everything that in hot water cylinders and things like that that we get constant earfuls for.
So I don't know the number. And the challenge is we're never going to be able to remove absolutely 100% of absolutely everything out of the water. I can come back and look at that, but yeah, if it's promising 100% of removing everything,
No.
then we're going to really.
I understand what the difference is, but it's just that it was called a manganese removal plant. So, yeah, that's right, yeah.
So,
And we can look at the levels that the plant will remove and come back on that.
yeah, because I think we need to, really have that in our minds, because we are going to get comments once it starts and people realise that it's not going to change the colour of the bottom of their jugs or anything like that, then people are going to start and ask these questions.
Yeah, like what but if we say actually, well, it will, because 90% of the manganese is being removed, something like that, like then we know.
So I can come back to the expected performance levels.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
Thank you. And on a nice note, thank you for Esther Street. It's looking really good.
Yeah.
And Malcolm Street.
It's, it's the work you're doing around town is very much appreciated.
Yeah.
And the hedges and things like that are being cut back off the footpaths to make it easier getting around has been really great. So thank you.
Have we corrected the New York Street hedge that's been a bone of contention for a number of years?
No. But Rick has got, when I say no, don't take me wrong, Rick has been in constant contact with the people that live in there, and he has got that in hand. So watch this space.
I think the time is
And I just want to say, so just to show the difference, my father, who is in his early 70s, said that he loves the fact that Malcolm Street, that they've fixed so many parts of it. And my 8-year-old nephew is really gutted because now it's the road's just not as much fun to skate down. So he's he's like, all the bumps are gone, and Dad's like, finally, I'm not tripping up every time I walk.
questions, because I had a question, but at the end of Esther Street where it comes onto Jellicoe, there is still work to be done to complete it, and with an exit on the road. It's not just going to end like it is.
Yeah.
We assume that.
Which is, it's just awesome though, like really much appreciated. So
Showcase as well, Donald Street. Footpath is great. Alice, you'd love to have a look at it.
Sorry?
New Donald Street footpath.
Even Anne, the big complainer down there.
I know.
Lovely lady, she gave me a stop me on the side of the road.
Send Rebecca down with you to see how it works. That's the test.
Is that the test?
She's redesigning it.
I just want to make a comment on the traffic light system. I think it's great because at a glance you can see where the issues are. And I guess probably at the end of the day we'll always want more commentary, but at least we've got the advantage of having these meetings.
I did feedback on board, we need quite a bit more commentary, as it's going to be a development process. Hopefully we can find it. If I could just highlight, there's a couple of reds there around the water projects, so Papua Road and Hero Grove. So with the cost increases around, or the unexpected costs around the Featherstone sewer main and then the Lake Ferry line replacement, part of the damage. And these projects come in slightly over budget as well. And there's, as I mentioned before, some slight pressure on our CapEx programme, and we'll need to look at how we manage that both with Village Water and our finance team. So I just wanted to highlight those two red. And again, some of me being open to say actually these are big issues for me.
So I think this is the issue we've got to face all on. As I said before, as you get these break-ins, the money's going to come from something.
I think this is really important just to bring up. Okay, so under major projects, the heading is manganese removal plant, and then it says a manganese reduction plant. So although the wording's been changed in some places, if it's now a reduction plant, we have to make sure that that's the message that's coming in every single thing that goes out, because otherwise people are still going to pick it up just exactly the same as, because for so long we've heard about the removal plant so as long as it's the same everywhere, and that'll thank you.
Yeah, I guess
That was my mistake.
Well,
Well.
yeah, don't know.
Removal of your time.
Yeah, no, I typed that in, so it wasn't.
Oh, okay. Okay, guys, and thank you, Ewan. I guess we're moving on to the action items. What are they?
28% doesn't look like cover what these ones.
Page 29.
Page 29.
I must say that I'm not noticing any change in going to online and not having paper. I think it's
That's great.
once you get used to it.
It's great.
Yeah.
Well, I've got paper, so I'm writing it all out. So.
Oh, and here's a different story.
And how mean Alistair has been to me.
Yeah, we're going to make a children.
I've got to say, bureaucracy is really important, and making sure the full stop is in the right place. Matters.
Alistair, you realise it's going to cost a chocolate fish.
Well, no, I've been good. I'm following process. It's highly unlikely.
I'll add to that offline, Alistair. Righto, we're moving to C2, which is the action items report. Would someone like to move? We receive it. Alex and Alistair. All in favour? Right. Queries on the action item. I actually said there's none closed off, so they're all fresh ones.
Yeah, I've probably got a couple of verbal updates on those.
Yeah. Well, you start with your verbal updates and I might
So I guess number 39 around the entrance works for senior housing, it was picked up earlier in the report around the completion of installation of heat pumps and waiting for the weather to improve before we finalise the refresh of the paint on the outside of some of those units.
What number is that, sorry?
That's number 39.
Oh, second page, sorry.
So I probably should have provided a formal update to the action, but yeah, we're just waiting for the weather to calm down a little bit. Number 40, which was picked up, and actually the rain that happened on Friday, although there was some localised flooding, and thank you for bringing it to my attention, we did have multiple phone holding crews out clearing sumps around all the times. If there are other issues, then we need to look at system size and localised issues. So yeah, we need to pick those up, and thank you, Ross, as well, for highlighting some of those issues too as well. The number 2, is it 36? Yeah. Small, that should say 85%, so hopefully we should have the results of that drone survey fairly soon.
Yep.
I think that percentage was updated in the report, but not in the action. Again, apologies. Yeah, we're the qualifications around wastewater is a work in progress. As a bit of an update on that, Wellings Water have increased the resources they're applying to South Wairarapa works. They have split their team into a treatment team and a network team with 2 different managers there to provide greater focus. And that's worked quite well, especially for the repair of the Featherstone sewer main, where previously it would be the same person having to deal with that as well as any other treatment issues. So actually it's been quite a good thing to do, and a learning process for Wellington Water as well.
Ewan, can I just, that 237 seems a really simple thing for Wellington Water to answer. There was a question from Rebecca, are their staff trained to New Zealand standards or not?
So to be fair, yeah, absolutely. So the focus has been on undertaking the wastewater programme. I take the comment on board and I'll come back to you as soon as I can.
Okay. Well, 5 months seems an excessive amount of time to get a yes or no answer.
Any other discussions around the action report?
I was going to highlight 401, so also thank you for, I wasn't aware it was a bottle there. Got the comments will pick us up with the order of foods. Thank you.
Oh,
Could you let me know when you're going and I'll meet you there?
you only wanted your free coffee.
No, I don't go and have coffee there.
Why not?
Because I can't get the pothole fixed.
Oh,
Need a thicker skin, mate.
Yeah, that wouldn't stop
After
me.
3 years, won't be able to go anywhere.
Yep.
That's why I've got a coffee machine at home.
Oh, well, sure. That's pretty racing.
Oh, can I say something else as well? Yeah, thank you very much for the signage now. It's anyone coming in that isn't from the area. They've all commented on the fact that it is so much easier to actually find Hauriki Marae. so really appreciate the fact that all of those the signage has finally been done so people can actually find it. So that's awesome.
I guess just as a quick verbal update, we are expecting the outcome of our TGF application is to be announced formally in the next few days. And that includes the applications that we made for town hall refurbishment, war memorial refurbishment, and on behalf of Hauriki. So we should be able to make a formal announcement as to what the status of those applications are in the next few days.
Okay,
Awesome. Can I ask another question? If you be aware of the letter from somebody living just south of Greytown about the entranceway to Greytown, pedestrians trying to walk along the road and the danger to them now because of the Taurua junction.
yes.
There's basically no space for people to get to town now, and particularly with people who walk to the cemetery or whatever. So,
On State Highway 2.
on State Highway 2, yeah. Yeah, because there was that very wide, and now it's literally only.
It will be, but then also as a result of the Taurua Junction development directly. So
And with that, yeah.
But the other one, the sort of immediate thing is that people pushing prams or whatever have to go out onto the road to get into town because the picket fences that they can't
That's
get
fine, they have to do it from out here as well when they're coming into town.
I know someone's raised an issue, and
No,
I understand
it's
that Bryce is going to remove the picket fences while they look at a new entranceway to town. So,
yeah, there's multiple issues in that letter that we need to address. Yeah.
one of the ideas that's been raised by some community people is to actually push the entranceway to town all the way back to the cemetery.
Oh, okay.
So that then we can have a footpath all the way to the cemetery and so on, and a speed zone out there, because a lot of people would probably walk out to the
I
cemetery.
think with the development of Five Rivers,
That probably
that
would be.
it wouldn't be a silly idea.
And that could be something that we look at in the spatial plan, I think. That's well, when you're looking at where the town, where you're wanting the town to go.
It's a nice entranceway into the cemetery, but it's actually 100-kilometre speed zone, and it's not easy to sort of turn out. If we push the town boundary to there, then we have a nice footpath and it's a nice entranceway, and it's.
So raise it
Yeah.
this afternoon.
Are you in are you on the Greytown Community Board? Are they looking at that? That's part of the Greytown Community Board?
It
Hasn't been raised.
It hasn't been raised.
But I think that would be a really good place to actually have it, like.
It has been raised in the past, I know that. It's been talked about a number of times in the past.
But just with now that it's actually happening and that's already started with Taurua Junction, it might be to start thinking about that town. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Looks like we've nailed it. I just
Sorry, so professional.
want to mention that Pam sitting in on here is our decision. If we're all happy with Pam to sit here, we don't have to constitutionally change that to that right. Suzanne?
Yeah, so to appoint Pam to the committee, we'll need to get reviewed in terms of reference, because your members will change, the balance of members will change, so it will be a decision of council.
And it's well worthwhile having Pam on it because of being on the waste minimisation that she keeps
That's right.
us up to speed.
That's what I was just about to say.
As I would. But so Pam, if you're happy to come to these meetings, you're more than welcome, and you can have a speaking part.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
And you could that could sway my vote. That could sway my vote.
Probably the change.
But also, I just want to make mention that once we've started into these committees and we can have free and open discussion about things, it's actually helping a lot, because in the past, up until about 2 or 3 years ago, before we have it, all these issues were raised at a council meeting. And now we can actually thrash them out a lot more than we ever did in the past. So I think it's great, and I guess Ross and your planning and committee meeting, it's much the same, is it?
Much the same.
Yeah.
It's a very good forum for what's hot and what's happening.
Absolutely.
And anything that needs to go to a full council can then be recommended from the committees to
Yes.
the council, which means you don't have to plough all over it again at a council meeting.
But you,
I just wanted to say, so here's the first one, Ewan, that's come out in the next couple of days or next couple of minutes, about 180,000. We've just received the email that it's,
Which one's right?
the media release, so SWDC secures.
Oh, that's Living Streets.
Innovative Streets Funds.
Yeah.
So is that, was that one of the ones that you were talking about? No, this is a different one. Because I was like, that's real fast, that's like, no, it's already been, it's just been announced while we're sitting in this meeting. Cool.
okay, guys, right. I declare the meeting closed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. GP, well done. That was a great meeting.
Thank you for including me. That's lovely, everybody.
Yep.
It's fabulous. Yeah.
We can stop recording now.
Yeah. Now we can talk some real stuff.
Deputy, I've got an email's just come in, which I'll tell you when we're not recording.